What is traditional medicine getting wrong when it comes to the treatment of cancer?
They are just looking at it as a problem to attack. No one's asking the why question. They're not saying, why did this cancer occur? And what could have caused the immune system to go rogue in the first place?
When you were in the traditional medicine world as a nurse, what were some of the most shocking things you saw when it came to the childhood schedule?
This is something that I have never shared publicly. You are your child's best advocate. You know your child best. If something doesn't feel right, press into that motherly instinct. When parents come in and want to space things apart, you're going to lose money. There's a whole for-profit side that no one sees.
Every single mother in America needs to hear what you just said. As a functional nurse practitioner who did all the non-toxic things, ate organic, and lived and breathed all things health and wellness, to be told she was diagnosed with brain cancer was the unthinkable. Taylor Dukes has a totally unique worldview on medicine and health, so obviously she wasn't going to be treating her cancer the conventional way. Taylor took a holistic approach with her cancer treatment and won. As a cancer-free wife and mom of 2 boys, Taylor is now the founder of Taylor Dukes Wellness, my go-to for protein powder, electrolytes, organic coffee, creamer, supplements, and much more. Taylor is going to share not only her story, but focus heavily on where to start for beginners when it comes to living a healthier lifestyle. What are the first swaps that somebody can make? What are free, simple options to lower our toxin load? The shocking thing she saw when it came to vaccinating children in her nurse training, the real deal on Stevia, and much more. You can watch this interview on the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel or Culture Apothecary on Spotify, which has video now, and of course, anywhere you get your podcast. Twice a week, a new guest brings their own unique remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, mentally, or spiritually. We are completely donor funded, so if you believe in our mission, consider becoming a financial supporter of the show with a tax-deductible donation with the link in the show notes. And if you love the show, you can pause right now and leave a 5-star review for free. If a crunchy conservative in your life needs a Christmas gift, podcast merch is available on tpusamerch.com. You can get 10% off with code AlexClark. Please welcome functional medicine nurse practitioner and founder of Taylor Dukes Wellness, Taylor Dukes, to Culture Apothecary. You were going to school to be a regular nurse, and then you switched into functional medicine. What led you down that journey?
So I always say when people go from kind of the regular conventional medical model to the integrative holistic, they're either sick or they're smart. So they're smart, they're ahead of the curve, they're really wanting to pursue wellness, or they're sick and they're desperate and they have a story. And I was sick. And so I was just regular college girl, went to nursing school at TCU and was ready to get a job in either ER, ICU. I was an adrenaline junkie. And God gave me an opportunity to go abroad and do medical missions, but I got really, really sick. And so when I got back from Ecuador, I had to get flown back early. I spent time in Africa and Ecuador. My health just declined. And it seemed like overnight. My hair was falling out. I had joint pain. My skin was a wreck. I couldn't get out of bed. I was so sick and inflamed. And so I was sick and desperate. And so I went to all these specialists. You know, they're like, you need to try this medication. I was trying invasive procedures. And I was never the sick kid. And then my mom came to kind of help and take care of me. And when she saw me, she was like, oh my gosh, you're like the go-go girl. You're the one that can pull yourself out of bed, always optimistic. And I was truly bedridden.
She knew something was wrong.
Yes. And mother's intuition, you know, but until she laid her eyes on me, you know, I'd say, I'm going to this doctor and I'm waiting for insurance approval and I'm starting these meds. And when she saw me, she was like, we're not doing this anymore. We're going to an integrative doctor.
And as a nurse, what did you think had happened to you?
I had no idea because I was convicted because here I am a nurse in our medical field and my whole job is to advocate for patients. And I couldn't even advocate for myself. I just felt lost and at the mercy of these doctors. And I just felt like they just kept medicating and suppressing symptoms. So then I started to feel crazy. And my mom took me to an integrative doctor, changed my life. She asked me, how was your mother's pregnancy? Were you a C-section? Were you a vaginal baby? And I was like, who cares? I don't know. But it changed my life. And her whole thought and my whole thought and how I practice is we have to look at the person as a whole. We have to look at, were they the sick kid growing up? Were they on antibiotics all the time? And so it was really through me getting sick that I found this form of medicine. It changed my life and then changed the trajectory of my career. So I didn't get into it because I was smart and wanting to be ahead of the curve. I got into it because I was desperate. And I honestly thought it was such woo-woo hocus pocus, but I was willing to try anything. So I changed my diet. I got rid of chemicals. I was able to get off my prescriptions. I did all sorts of hormone testing, gut testing, and really had a provider look at me as a whole body versus just isolating the systems and looking at just the gut, just the skin. And so that's really how I got into it.
Why did that doctor ask you if you had been a C-section baby? Why is that an important question to ask people?
Because it can affect the gut microbiome. And so when you don't go through the vaginal canal, you're inoculated with a lot of really good bacteria that can help support your immune system. Now, a lot of people don't have choices sometimes, right? Like babies upside down. And there's so much that you can do because people freak out. They're like, well, I was a C-section and I was always the sick kid. And there's always things that you can do. But God made us to have births vaginally. And I know it doesn't always happen that way. But it is kind of a blow to the gut because you're not getting all that good bacteria going through the canal.
So you get better. And then what happens?
So I get better and I was like, I can't go back to traditional, the hospital. And I just felt like I knew there was a better way. And when you know better, you do better. So I wanted to do better. And I got a job at a functional medicine practice. I was the nurse for Dr. Amy Myers and I got a lot of experience with her. And then I went to become a nurse practitioner. Met my husband. Life was good. I started a private practice of my own because I wanted to help people the way that I had been healed. And, spending an hour and a half with them and talking to them all about their medical history. What's their diet like? What's your stress? How are you sleeping? What products are you using? And so I got to do that for years. Then I started a wellness center and God gave us 2 kids. And then I got the curveball of my life. So I was gifted a full body preventative scan just because of the work that I do online. And in that scan, they found a brain tumor.
And how old were you?
This was just 2 years ago. So
2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And is it becoming more common for people in their 30s to be diagnosed with cancer?
Yeah, I think we're seeing the rates. And in fact, the American Cancer Society said that there's projected to be over 2 million cancer diagnoses this year. And sadly, that's mostly driven by young people. I'm not trying to scare people. I'm one of those statistics, right? It's just the reality. I think more and more people are realizing, oh my gosh, my friend who's even 20-year-olds are getting breast cancer. It's not normal.
How did it feel to be diagnosed with a brain cancer as you are this non-toxic, organic health and wellness nurse and guru on social media?
Well, one, it was a shock. I was in disbelief when I got the report. I was reading it and I'm thinking, this is the wrong person. There's no way this is me. And I have to back up. I have no symptoms. So when I got the report, I used to work in the ICU. I took care of brain patients post-surgery. And I had no seizures. I had no personality issues, no memory, no speech, no headaches, nothing. I was nursing my 10-month-old baby minutes before I got the call. So it was one of those things that at first I was in disbelief and I was like, this isn't me. And then I went and got more scans and sure enough, it was me. So at first I'm like, what the heck, but also it was a blessing. I didn't have symptoms. But I think something that most people need to know because they freak out when they hear my story, like, what if I did a scan? What are we going to find? What people need to know is that tumors usually grow. It takes them 8 to 10 years to grow. You first have circulating tumor cells and then it forms a tumor. And by the time it's big, like the size mine was, it was a plum in my head, it takes 8 to 10 years for that to form.
So this must have started forming then when what? You were in your early 20s?
When I was sick. And so when my immune system was suppressed and I had parasites, I had heavy metal toxicity, I had Lyme disease. So my immune system was suppressed. I also had a lot of trauma at that time in my life, and trauma does affect our body. And so it was one of those things that when you look back at my timeline, the tumor had been growing 8 to 10 years. And even traditional, like my neurosurgeon, my neuro-oncologist, everybody says, this has been growing for years. It was just a matter of time before you become symptomatic.
And what was your exact diagnosis?
Brain tumor, but you don't know until you get pathology. So I found out in September of 2022. And I knew enough to know that, okay, I'm not going to freak out and just make a decision in fear. Most people don't get the choice. They have a seizure, they get the on-call neurosurgeon. They don't even pack a bag. They don't send an out-of-office email. They have brain surgery. In my case, it was such a freak thing, but I also wasn't going to rush into surgery. And I wanted to pray. I wanted to slow down and process. And okay, God, you've put me here in this integrative world. I don't know nothing about cancer at this point from an integrative perspective, but I knew enough to know that it's an immune system problem and there's something abnormal in my cells happening. So I didn't rush in fear to surgery. I went to Mexico. I went to a integrative holistic center in Mexico where I was doing everything from hyperbaric to high-dose vitamin C, ozone, red light beds. And then I also went to California to Dr. Keneally. So in between when I found out and when I had brain surgery, I spent 5 months busting my tail, getting into ketosis, doing tons, probably 80 supplements a day, doing all sorts of things. And we actually shrunk the brain tumor in half before surgery, which is a miracle.
Oh my gosh, praise God.
But I still had surgery. And that's what I like people to hear. It's not holistic or, conventional. It can be both, and you can integrate both for the best possible outcome. I took a little bit from the holistic world, or a lot from the holistic world, and then I used conventional. I had surgery. That's a very conventional intervention, but there are times and places.
And so when you do a little bit of both like that, you do some holistic methods and then you do, I don't know what you would call that, more traditional.
Yeah.
Then that's called integrative medicine, correct?
Yes.
And so Dr. Keneally in Irvine, she is an integrative cancer specialist.
Yes.
So she will use things like chemo or things like that if she feels like it is absolutely necessary, but she also uses a ton of unconventional methods to help treat cancer.
And she uses prescriptions. I think that's the misconception of the holistic world, and even how I practice medicine is it's not black or white, all or nothing. It's both and for the best possible outcome.
Were you baffled as to how you could have been diagnosed with this as somebody who was like the self-proclaimed crunchy granola clean mom?
Totally. It was really humbling. And I was also felt like kind of like a fraud. My whole business is dedicated to helping people, but I have cancer. But the reality is when we looked at everything and when we realized how cancer works, when you look back at my timeline and my history, it all makes perfect sense.
What were the specific things in your history that you think led to a tumor starting to grow in your brain in your early 20s?
So I trace it back to, again, I had the opportunity to go to abroad overseas, and I was never the sick kid, but I had a ton of shots. You have to go to these countries abroad. So I remember literally there was a picture of me, still is on my personal Instagram, and I was like 5 shots in a lolly to go to Africa. So I had that, which if I know my genetics, I would have never done that now. Like my methylation genes, MTHFR, I would have never done that all in one day. It's always drops in the bucket. It's not one thing. So that was a drop in the bucket. I was in Africa, so I was on malaria meds, which is antibiotics every day, which destroys the gut. I got parasites, which the antibiotics make you more susceptible to parasites. I'd gone through a lot of trauma. People see me as a very optimistic, bubbly person, which I am, but I also have a lot of trauma, family trauma. And so I also got breast implants. This is all within 1 year these things happened.
Whoa.
And so you see all these little drops in the bucket.
That's a lot of stress on the body.
Yes. And since then, I've had my breast explants removed because they're a foreign object in the body and it can mess up your immune system. So I had implants, trauma, shots,
and
antibiotics.
Can I ask, did you do the explant surgery with Dr. Whitfield?
I did.
Yeah. Do you feel like cancer is totally based on lifestyle choices and environment, or is there a genetic component to cancer?
So there's only a really small percentage of genetic components of cancer. And I think the reality is that our healthcare system and mainstream everything leads you to believe that you have the genetics and you're doomed. But the reality is there are so many more contributing factors to cancer than genetics, and we shouldn't live in fear. And also, when I was digging into all of this and looking at genetics have nothing to do with my type of cancer. And I think that a lot of people live in fear, like my mom had it and I'm going to have this. But the reality is, if we want to get nerdy, it's called epigenetics. And we have the ability to affect the expression of our gene through the way that we live. We can turn on and turn off genes.
Here's what's weird. So my dad's dad died of glioblastoma. My dad now has glioblastoma at 56. So his doctors are all telling my brother and I that we have to go do a bunch of special testing to see if we have some likelihood of also getting brain cancer. So when my dad first got diagnosed with this in January of 2024, I was freaking out about that. Like, what test do I need to get? What is this thing? So how do you explain that when there's you see this direct line of grandparent has it, parent has it. So is it our genes have a likelihood for something? We're predisposed for something, but we can alter that with our diet and lifestyle?
Yes, there are certain genetics that make you more susceptible. So in that case, it's this was a double genetic thing. But then in that case, I'm also where did they live? Were they around power plants? What were you around? Were you, parasites? There's a huge link between parasites and brain cancer. And this is not just the holistic world. You can go on PubMed. And in fact, there's a certain parasite that you can find in your blood that I'm positive for that is linked to gliomas in middle-aged people. That's my story to a T. You can go Google this on the internet. This is not censored. And so parasites, there's a huge link to parasites. So if people grew up in, I'm not saying we live in fear of parasites, right? We should live outside, be bare feet, do all the things, live normal lives.
That's a question I get from moms all the time is like, what about parasites? Should I let my kids really be barefoot outside?
Well, we deworm in our family. And
Okay,
that's
how do you
not
do
a
that?
popular
No one
opinion.
on the show has talked about how to detox from parasites, do parasite cleanse really in depth, and no one has talked about deworming.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it because a lot of other cultures do it. And most people say like, oh, parasites are only a thing in Africa. Well, I mean, yes, it is prevalent there, right? And dirty water and contaminated water in third world countries. However, we deworm our pets in America. Every other country deworms. Why aren't we doing this for ourselves? Because we know that parasitic infections lead to disease, just like everything else in our country. So why aren't we doing that? So I say, and honestly, I thought it was a little bit overkill in the health community until I was in the cancer world. And now when you know better, you do better. And I know that it's a huge contributing factor suppressing the immune system, specifically linked to brain cancer. So now I do that. And now our family, we're just doing it, twice a year. So we use herbs. I help guide people through that in my community, my online community, because a lot of people are blind and they're overwhelmed. And how do I do it? There are prescriptions, but there are natural herbs you can do at home. And so just twice a year, you do 10 days at a time. You can do it around a full moon where they're more active. I know this sounds woo-woo.
Yeah. Is it true that the worms get crazy in the full moon?
The creepy crawlers come out. It's true. Yes. And it has all sorts. I don't want to get into the science of it, but there's serotonin receptors, the way that the moon affects, our hormones and things like that. They are more active.
Is there a connection between nightmares and parasites?
Yeah, there can be.
Really?
I'm not going to be the person that says parasites are the cause for everything. It's always different contributing factors, but it can be a huge reason for grinding teeth. I always tell people if they have a lot of symptoms around the full moon, whatever it is, increased
You might be turning
anxiety,
into a werewolf. Just kidding.
increased anxiety, teeth grinding, things like that. Press into that. Consider a parasite cleanse. It's not harmful. I mean, obviously consult your provider. This is not medical advice. But yeah, there's certain cleanses you can do out there and just get it online and be guided.
What were some of the wildest holistic cancer treatments that you did?
Gosh, I can't think of the wildest, but I will say there were so many moments in the cancer journey that I went on that I'm like, where am I and what in the world is happening? I'm crossing the street in Mexico playing Mexican Frogger to get to this clinic to just do this full day of therapies. I've been in rooms with people and they're like, let me do this little therapy. I drove to this woman's house and did this therapy, this frequency therapy that's on a ranch 2 hours away from me. I mean, I have gone to the ends
Acupuncture?
Oh no, that's totally normal. I do that all the time.
Okay.
It's this frequency machine. And I'm like, where am I and what am I doing? But you do coffee enemas, you do rectal ozone. I took a lot of prescriptions. I did herbs.
Why should we be doing coffee enemas? I want to be radicalized.
So they're really good. They're a powerhouse for detoxing. And so what it does is to get into the science of it, it stimulates the body's natural production of glutathione, which is the body's most powerful antioxidant. It helps decrease inflammation, helps detox, helps boost the immune system. So when you give the coffee up the rectum to the portal vein, the way it's absorbed through the liver, it's just one of the most amazing. And it's been around for years. That's why a lot of this stuff, it does seem woo-woo, but when you look back, it's before there was the advancement of a bunch of pharmaceuticals and a lot of treatments, this is what people did.
Let me take you back to a morning recently. I'm standing in the kitchen making breakfast, and I realize how important it is to start the day right. A protein-packed breakfast has never been so easy, especially when I'm using Taylor Duke's Wellness brand new organic protein pancake mix. These things are light, fluffy. They fill me up with balanced energy that lasts all morning. Plus, they're free of dairy, gluten, and soy. They're made with only organic, real food ingredients. It is that simple, clean, and nourishing. I've gotten to know Taylor Dukes personally. Obviously, I mean, she's on this episode, but also outside of the episode. She has become such a dear friend to me. She also survived brain cancer. If anyone is a stickler for sourcing the best ingredients, it's Taylor. You can trust that everything from her protein powders to her organic coffee is non-GMO, dairy-free, soy-free, and free of artificial colors or flavors. It is an honor to do this interview with her today and for Taylor Duke's Wellness to be the top sponsor of Culture Apothecary. Taylor Duke's Wellness has become my go-to for the best organic, grass-fed bone broth protein powders in flavors like this chocolate here and strawberries and cream, as well as mold-free coffee, clean coffee creamer, and top-tier supplements. It's all about clean ingredients that actually fuel your body. And I couldn't recommend it more. Go to TaylorDukesWellness.com and use code Alex Clark for 10% off. That's TaylorDukesWellness.com with code Alex Clark for 10% off. I know the idea of switching banks can seem like a hassle, but now is the time to partner with people who support and uphold our values, not work against them, like so many other banks do, especially in an era where apparently you can now get debanked for your political views. America's Christian Credit Union is proud to partner with Every Life Diapers to champion mothers who are bravely facing challenges caring for their babies. From now until January 31st, 2025, every new checking account opened at America's Christian Credit Union, they're going to be donating a box of Every Life diapers to a Christian pregnancy resource center. They will also be rewarding those new checking accounts with a $100 bonus. This is a wonderful opportunity for Christians to come together and support life just by switching where we bank. If you didn't know, Every Life is the nation's first and only pro-life diaper company. Every major diaper brand either vocally or financially supports abortion, which is why Every Life stands out. Every Life prioritizes providing premium diapers and wipes to new families while also being committed to supporting pro-life organizations. What a cool opportunity and incentive to switch your bank to America's Christian Credit Union. To learn more, go to americaschristiancu.com/every. That's americaschristiancu.com/every. Are you ready for the ultimate conservative event of the year, America Fest, hosted by Turning Point USA? It's happening December 19th through 22nd in Phoenix, Arizona. And trust me, it is a blast every year, but this year especially. You're going to get to hear from amazing speakers like Ben Shapiro, Lee Allen Baker, Antonio Brown, and many others. Plus, tons of live podcasts with your favorite conservative creators. I'm going to be speaking too. This family-friendly event is the place to be for conservative politics, with tens of thousands of patriots coming together for one epic conference. Your whole family can go. Go to amfest.com with code Alex Clark to get 25% off general admission tickets. Don't miss out. amfest.com with code Alex Clark for 25% off general admission. In your opinion, what is traditional medicine getting wrong when it comes to the treatment of cancer?
They are just looking at it as a problem to attack. So people say, okay, they only do surgery. They only have a few tools in their tool belt. So they do surgery, chemo, radiation, sometimes immunotherapy or gene blockers. But the reality is it's so much more. No one's asking the why question. They're not saying, why did this cancer occur? And what could have caused the immune system to go rogue in the first place? Because the reality is the way that God made our immune systems, we at any given point in time, everybody in this room right now has circulating tumor cells. And our immune system goes and takes care of that. And it's just the way that we're made, right? But it's when the immune cells start going rogue and the immune system is suppressed, it can't keep up, it can't attack those cells, and then it turns into a full tumor. But most traditional oncologists, all they're going to do is focused on chemo radiation, which can make you sick. And there are times and places. That's where I'm not anti-conventional treatments. I think you have to look at the person, you have to look at their body, you have to look at labs, you have to ask the why question. And you have to treat them as an individual. You can't just say, you have this type of cancer, this means you do this, this, and this. And honestly, you have to look at the outcomes. And I think the biggest thing that they're getting wrong is even when people make it to no evidence of disease or they're cancer-free, no one is doing anything to prevent it from coming back. And the reality is if you don't get to the root cause of why it occurred in the first place, there's a huge likelihood of it coming back. That's why you hear like they were in remission and then this happened. And I'm not trying to be negative. It's just the reality of our world.
How long after being diagnosed did you find out that you were cancer-free?
Technically, we shrunk the brain tumor in half within those 5 months, which is really hard to do. And there are some times that I'm like, I wish I just ate Whataburger and just like drank Coke all day and could just say, glory to God, which glory to God at the end of the day. Like it really is God that did it all and all glory to him. But I kind of am like, dang, I wish I just did that. And it was just this crazy miracle, which it is, but he's using my story to show that there's more and you can do the integrative holistic approach. But so in 5 months, we shrunk it. And then technically I was deemed cancer-free after surgery because they got the rest of it out. So I have no evidence of disease right now, but I still get monitored every year. Every 3 months you do MRIs, then you graduate to 6 months. So technically I'm still in a gray window of it coming back. But that's where I'm not just sitting and live. I do live my life and I live my life like I'm healed and I have fun and I travel, but I'm also doing a lot of protocols to prevent recurrence and to make sure that those abnormal cells don't come back.
If somebody can afford it, because I know it costs a fortune. If somebody can afford it, do you recommend those full body scans?
Yes. I mean, it saved my life. It's one of those things where some people say like, if it's not broken, don't fix it or don't go looking for a problem. I get that and I hear that. But I'm also like, how can you not look at my story and say, praise God? We found it before she had a seizure or before it was too late and it infiltrated more brain tissue and then I had complications. So in my situation, I'm like forever an advocate of it. In a perfect world, I wish insurance would cover it. They would save money long term. They'd early detection of not just cancer, but aneurysms, all sorts of other things.
What is the best diet for somebody who has been diagnosed with brain cancer?
For sure, ketogenic diet. And again, everything has to be personalized, work with a provider. And I'm not saying like you're just eating T-bone steaks and cottage cheese keto. Like that's like dirty keto, more clean keto. That's what people call it. And so it's more really, really high healthy fats. And you're starving glucose, you're starving sugar to the cancer tumor, which loves it. Cancer loves sugar, so it eats it up like Pac-Man. And so when you cut off its main food source, you're cutting off its blood supply, which is what you want to do. So ketosis is the best. And there's a lot of controversy in the cancer world of should you go vegan, vegetarian, keto? But the way that I did it is I did like 80% of my diet was fat, avocado, olive oil, nuts. Like I would just take olive oil shots.
I have been thinking about starting to do that in general, squeeze a little lemon in it in the morning and do an olive oil shot.
I love it.
Okay. I was
Why
thinking
not?
about doing that recently. I saw somebody online was doing that. I was like, oh, that's not a bad idea.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of people say, oh, well, fat makes you fat. And it's like, no, actually, when everything was low fat in the early 90s or whenever it was, you remember that, right? Everything was
a
low
huge craze.
fat, 100 calorie. They actually replaced that with inflammatory oils and sugar. And so it's not fat that makes people fat. Fat has been around for a long time when it's good quality fat.
Fat is like the best thing for your brain health.
Yes, for your hormones, for your brain, for your skin, like tallow, butter, avocado.
And we need cholesterol. It's like our
to
body
make
runs on
hormones.
cholesterol.
Yes.
Yeah. Because that's another thing that we were told was a bad word, was fat
Yeah.
cholesterol,
Yeah.
which couldn't be further from the truth. I need to do a whole episode on just cholesterol, honestly. How old were your kids when you were diagnosed?
My youngest was 10 months old, and it was my son's 3-year-old birthday weekend.
Was there ever a time where you felt angry with God?
I don't know that angry would be the word. I could get teary because it's just so crazy to think that this is my story. I think I felt like, what, God? And I'm like, if this is going to be my story, why can't it be when I'm 50? Like, I want to watch my kids grow up. But I trust God. I really do. And I've seen him be faithful through some of the hardest times of my life. And so going through those moments and looking back and remembering his faithfulness, it really compelled me to trust him for the future in this situation. It's still hard. And there's still days where I struggle with fear. Like, what if it does come back? What if? You know, I'm positive. I trust him. But it's still really hard. And I've wrestled a lot with just like, why me? Why now? But I also am like, okay, God, I've seen you use my story and I trust you and the amount of cancer patients that have found integrative care. I mean, I get Instagram messages. My team gets emails several times a week of people that, you know, they are in remission now. And if they had not found my post and found this doctor. And so I see the way God's using it and waking up people when it comes to this traditional care. And so I'm thankful for that. I wish it wasn't me.
Well, what I think is incredible is that you, more than anyone at the time of your life that this happened, having babies at home, that would be the time where somebody just diagnosed with cancer is going to be operating under fear and like, okay, I'll do whatever like the traditional medical model tells me to do. Were there people in your life telling you like, this is irresponsible, Taylor, for you to go do these crazy red light treatments and stuff when you're dealing with cancer and you have kids? Like, did you have any doubters in your circle?
No one said anything to me directly. And me and my husband had a conversation about this. Do we share this publicly? Because I already had, you know, an online presence at this time. And so it was, do I share this publicly? And it was like, yeah, this is my story. I'm not going to hide it. And I'm sure we're going to get some curveballs and some haters. I feel like God actually really protected us from that. And I'm sure people had opinions. We have some medical people in our family, and I have some close medical family friends, of course, being in this world. People wondered, they're like, so what are you doing? Where is she headed, Mexico? You know, I'm like, I'm sure they thought we were crazy, but we were not met with resistance, which really was like, I feel like God protecting us to just move forward. And again, that came from peace and prayer, and I felt so much peace about doing integrative stuff. And again, I wasn't symptomatic. So why would I rush into something? You know, we had to execute a living will. I had to get my husband access to my business bank accounts. We all live life like we're going to die of old age. And so when you're presented with I say terminal because I don't speak that over my life. I think I'm going to live a long life. I really do. And I don't believe the things that doctors speak over me. I say, thank you, but I'm not a statistic and I'm going to do things different. But when you're presented with that, you have no choice but to fight. I want to fight for milestones with my kids. I want to be there on their wedding day. I want to be there when they turn 16. You know, it's like, I'll do anything. And so why wouldn't you go and do all the things and bust out all the stops? And if conventional medicine only has 3 things to offer, why wouldn't you get in your tool belt and say, I'll do diet, I'll do supplements, I'll do prescriptions, I'll do anything? So that was kind of my fighting mentality.
I just want to ask, especially as somebody that has a parent going through this, when you do these different types of treatments and go to these specialty doctors, are there payment plans and things available? Or is it like, no, it's going to be a bigger upfront cost?
So it really depends on the clinic, the provider. I will say personally something that we did in my story, if there's somebody out there listening that's in this situation that has felt a tug to do an integrative approach but doesn't have the funds, we couldn't pony up overnight and figure it out. I was like, I would rather be a one-car family. I would rather sell our house. Like, let's go get a Sprinter van. I don't care. But for us, our community, our church, our friends rallied together, and there was a give, send, go, and it's a ministry-based, and people just donate and rally. And so that's the only way that I was able to jump in right away for us to come up with the funds. And we did have to put money down to go to Hope for Cancer for a couple weeks. And then Dr. Canali, it is due at the time of the visit. However, there are different health share programs. Really, we couldn't have done it without a give, send, go. But the hope and reality is that, man, if insurance companies would pay for preventative scans and a preventative approach, our medical system would look so different. But then it gets into all the for-profit stuff.
When you look back in your teens and early 20s, what do you wish you would have done differently to prevent cancer in your 30s?
I wish that I cared more about what I put in and on my body. So I didn't care about my diet. I didn't care about the things I used on my skin. I didn't care about the cleaning products I used. And so if I know what I know now, I would have made better choices then as far as just my diet, my lifestyle. I grew up really healthy, and so I always ate really healthy, but then it was going to college and being on my own. And obviously, I probably would have never received all of those shots in one day before going to Africa. And there are just some things we can change and some things we can't. But if I knew better, I would have made better choices back then.
The average American woman puts 168 chemicals on her body every single day. How can we start to lessen this toxic load?
So I always tell women it's really overwhelming, especially when you're a beauty product queen. We apply so many different products, and you have to look at women. The amount of thyroid disease, the amount of autoimmune disease, the amount of hormone imbalances. We have to start thinking it has to do with our products. So I always tell women, or when I would work with patients one-on-one, not everything's going to change overnight. It's slow decisions over time. When you run out of something, throw it away, look for a better option, replace it. Or if you have the funds and means and you're like, I'm going to do a huge overhaul, go for it. But that's not realistic and attainable for everybody. So I say, what are the things you use daily? So body wash, you're slathering that on daily, if not twice a day. I always say laundry detergent is one of the best swaps that you can make. And it's so simple because it's your towels, your sheets, your clothes, and it's something that you're wearing all the time. And so if you can just make that one simple swap. And my favorite thing is when I would work with patients in my private practice, I'd usually work with women because they have, women were drawn towards me. And it was just one of those things that I would say, just make this one swap. And my favorite thing was when she would say, well, my husband's allergies are going away or my kid's skin's improving just as a byproduct of getting rid of toxic ingredients. And so
in your laundry detergent?
That's a big one. Laundry detergent, cleaning products, just what pollutes the air in your home.
Okay, what laundry detergent do you like that's clean?
I like Branch Basic. So they have a liquid and they also just came out with the powder and I've been using it for years. There's no fragrance. Oh, another thing, dryer sheets. You can't be using dryer sheets.
No dryer sheets?
No dryer sheets.
Why not?
Because they're so toxic and then most of them also have fragrance. So I say wool dryer balls. Here's the deal. I don't like static on my clothes. I'm not this person that's like a purist that lives out on a farm that like hang dries my stuff on a clothesline. But no dryer sheets, used wool dryer balls. You can get them on Amazon. They're so cheap. And if you like the smell of scented clothes, then put some essential oils on a wool dryer ball and your clothes will smell good.
Where should we start the basics when it comes to living a healthier, non-toxic lifestyle?
Okay, so I think people overcomplicate it. I really do. And this is why so many people are either intimidated because of the non-toxic world, because it feels unattainable and they're like, well, everything's expensive. Start with the products that you use on a daily basis, right? But get back to basics, Get sunshine, get fresh air, make sure you're sleeping well at night, manage stress. When it comes to food, shop the perimeter of the grocery store. People get so stressed by food ingredients and how to read food labels, which I think is very, very important. So you can advocate for yourself and not just say, oh, that brand's good, that brand's bad, because sometimes they sneak things in. So you have to know how to read food labels. But what I always say in the beginning is just get back to eating real food. Shop the perimeter of the grocery store.
Food that doesn't need a food label.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
The food itself is an ingredient.
Yes.
Eggs,
beef,
meat,
avocado, eggs, vegetables, fruit. That's where to start. We don't have to overcomplicate it. And I think people get so stressed because there's autoimmune paleo and ketosis and vegetarian, and there's all these diets, which there are times and places for nutritional healing protocols to be strict when you're working with a provider one-on-one. But people overcomplicate it. Just get back to eating real food, get sunshine, fresh air, get movement, sweat. That's important to detox. Get rid of toxins, especially as a female. Do not use toxic deodorant. That is a really, really big one. We are clogging how we detox and all the lymphatic tissue right there that's right near breast tissue and hormones. And a lot of toxic deodorant has aluminum in it. And so that's a big one. Get rid of your deodorant or don't even wear deodorant.
And that's men too, right?
Yes, men too. But just women especially, that's like one of 168 products. But yes, my husband uses activated charcoal deodorant. I think it's so important that people use clean deodorant.
Does being healthier or converting to a non-toxic home automatically mean you've got to spend a lot of money?
No. I always like to emphasize focus on removal. So what's polluting your home? Do you have air plugins? Do you have scented candles? I have candles. I have clean ones in my house. I'm still a girl. I like these things, right? But get rid of the things, just toss the things that are polluting your home. Get rid of the chemicals that are just sitting under your sink or the air plug-in refreshers or the little scent thing in your car. Start there, just removal. That's free. You might feel guilty throwing away some of that stuff, but when it's for the betterment of your health, why not? So start there removing and then slowly replace. And you can use water and vinegar to clean your floors. It does not have to be expensive. You know, there's detox baths, but you can literally just get Epsom salt at the store and baking soda and make that a detox bath.
One of my best friends, best friend, they're living on under $100,000 a year. They've got multiple kids and they're on a tight budget. She is not going out and buying fancy cleaning products. They're literally only using vinegar in their home. That's it. So it is a extra step if you can afford it, if you want to switch to these like fancy non-toxic products, but you can just clean with vinegar or you can make your own laundry detergent. I think that's where people get caught up is they think they have to buy like a non-toxic brand. You're paying for, yes, cleaner ingredients, but also the convenience of they're making it for you so you don't have to.
Yes.
But if you're really, really on a budget and want to make these swaps, that is absolutely something that somebody can do. And I think that's where everybody gets like so upset. That's a personal choice for me. I am not ever going to be that unless, something dire happened where, I lost my job or my husband did or whatever. And it was just like, that's what we had to do. But as long as I'm able, I'm not going to be the person that just like for funsies wants to make my own laundry detergent. I don't enjoy that. Now, some people really enjoy doing stuff like that, but or they have to. So I choose to pay for, a little extra for other people to do it.
And you would sacrifice in other areas when you have to. Because it's like, for me, I don't care as much about shopping and buying as cute clothes. I would rather provide healthy food for my family and do that. And then if you have extra money to do that, great, awesome. But when your priorities are your priorities, you can find a way and make a way, and you don't need to buy all these expensive brands and really just get rid of the things, and then eating out. It's so expensive these days. And then you're getting inflammatory oils, usually sugar laden, sometimes food dyes in it. So it's like, just go back to eating at home.
Meet the really tan man and the olive oil queen, two chip lovers who are just as passionate about each other as they are about the perfect crunchy snack. But here's the thing. They always felt sluggish and, kind of gross after eating regular chips. They tried everything. They searched for chips made with real good-for-you ingredients, but they just couldn't find any. So they decided to do what any sensible couple would do. Create their own. Introducing masa chips, the first tortilla chips made with organic corn and grass-fed beef tallow. No inflammatory seed oils, no artificial ingredients, just simple, traditional goodness. Masa chips are handcrafted with only 3 ingredients: organic corn, grass-fed tallow, and sea salt. That's it. They're free from pesticides and seed oils, 2 things that many leading nutritionists are saying are linked to inflammation, sluggishness, and even stubborn weight gain. What's the big deal with seed oils? Well, they're packed with polyunsaturated fatty acids, which react with oxygen, depleting your body's antioxidants. That's why you feel sluggish after eating ultra-processed chips. On the other hand, grass-fed beef tallow is loaded with fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, E, and K2, essential for everything from skin health to a strong immune system. So if you're craving the crispiest, most satisfying tortilla chips without the junk, Masa has you covered. Plus, if you order today, you're going to get 20% off your first purchase when you use code RealAlexClark at checkout. That's masachips.com and use code RealAlexClark for 20% off your first order of the best chips on the planet. Trust me, your taste buds and your body will thank you. Let's talk about something serious, tampons. A recent study found that many mainstream tampons contain toxic metals like lead, arsenic, and mercury. These metals can enter your bloodstream through the vaginal wall, which is highly vascularized and absorbent. It's a wake-up call for all of us, especially since these metals are linked to organ damage and even cancer. That is why I switched to Garnu, a company that believes in 100% non-toxic organic cotton period products. Garnu tampons, pads, and period cups are free from chemicals, pesticides, pesticides and harmful metals. Organic cotton is not only better for your body, it's better for the planet too. Plus, their cute pink and purple packaging makes that time of the month just a little less awful. Garnu is more than just a period product company. They're a conservative-owned business that donates a portion of each purchase to help fight human trafficking. And because Garnu ships directly to your door, you're never going to run out of products during Strawberry Week again. Go to garnu.com and use code ALEX for 15% off your order. That's garnu.com, GARNUU.com, with code ALEX for 15% off your purchase. Feel good about what you're putting in your body and help make a real difference. What constitutes a non-toxic candle? Like, if we are candle obsessed and we still really, really want to burn something, what could we be burning or what should we be looking for?
So beeswax are really clean and they actually can purify the air. So I have a candle that's just plain pure beeswax, but if I want a little smell good candle, I have ones primarily pure that have essential oils. Fragrance is the big thing to avoid for women. That's the big thing is fragrance, if you ever see perfume or fragrance in products, total red flag. That is a code word for chemicals that usually can mess with your hormones.
You know what you taught me a while back is that your Epsom salts could have fragrance added.
Yes.
And so you just think like, oh, it's the super clean, just Epsom salt. And then you look into it and it literally says fragrance on there. And so you should not use that.
Yeah, I don't like it. It's one of those things and you're bathing in it and you think, the water's warm, so your pores are open, so you're absorbing it. And marketing is crazy. Like, that's the hard thing is you have to know how to read ingredients and be educated in that. And that's something that comes later, you guys. Get back to the basics, eat real food, avoid fragrance, in products. But the reality is once you learn how to read an ingredient label, you're your best advocate.
What is the best way to lower our toxin load at night?
Ooh, don't sleep with our phone in our room because EMFs is kind of a hot topic, and it's something that I've been more passionate about since being diagnosed with brain cancer. You don't see it, you don't feel it, you don't taste it, so it's easy to ignore it. But our cell phones and all these 5G towers popping up, it is affecting our health, and especially brains. And so there's actually a lot of talk about some call centers in the 90s. There's some lawsuits, class action lawsuits that happened in the early 90s. And people that worked in call centers with the first wireless headsets, they have brain tumors on the side that yes. And so, but all this, no one's finding out about this, right? They're suppressing. And there's also studies showing rats, when they're exposed to it, they get gliomas. So there's lots of research, but it's not mainstream. And so one way to detox your bedroom is put your phone in airplane mode, get it out of your bedroom. It's also good for your mental health to not be scrolling all night.
Are you and your husband doing a hard Wi-Fi shut off at night?
Yeah. So when I got diagnosed, we did hardwire our house, like back to an Ethernet cable just to protect from EMFs. It honestly became a huge hassle when we were leaving town and he'd want to turn on the security system. So we just turn it off at night now.
Okay.
But there's just a kill switch. You can just hit a kill switch. We use Tech Wellness and it literally turns off everything.
Yeah. August Bryce created Tech Wellness, which is like a one-stop shop for all of this type of product. And that's her website. And she's been on the show. So that's like a great episode if you want to learn more about EMFs.
And if you want to upgrade sleep, then it's like, yes, if you can afford an organic mattress and organic cotton sheets and all of that. But just you have to start somewhere. It gets crazy and excessive and expensive.
One thing about you that I like is that you're capable of talking to the beginner, first steps, here's what you need to do. But for those of us that are like intermediates, we've been down this road and we want like 100-step routine. What are some of the little things that you're doing in your nighttime routine that we might think is fun?
Okay, so it really depends because I'm a mom. I have kids. You get curveballs with bedtime, moods, feelings, whatever. Mommy, I want you to snuggle me. So it really depends on the night. But if I could have my dream night, I get off my phone because it's the blue light, which tricks our brains into thinking it's still daytime. So
are blue light blockers actually legit?
They're legit. Yes. So the artificial light tells our brain that it's still daylight. And then we don't produce melatonin, which is our sleepy hormone that helps us calm down at night. And I always say, get back to basics. Look at how God created us. Get up with the sun, wind down in the evening. But we don't do that. We're on our phones, our computers. Me too, So I love blue light blockers. I get off my phone. I love taking a bath. I usually do Epsom salt, which is a form of magnesium. If I really want to kick it up a notch, I'll add baking soda.
Why baking soda?
It helps alkalize the body. So it's detoxifying.
Ooh.
This is cheap, right?
Yeah.
And then if I really want to kick it up, we have a detox bath in our brand, and it has all sorts of things that can pull out toxins. So I'll do a detox bath. But for the beginners or for the people to make it more affordable, just do magnesium and baking soda. That's easy. You can find it at the grocery store.
Dude, I got really, really sick. Like there's just been, a normal cold or whatever, like winter cold that's been going around at least our office. Now everybody I think has gone through it and had it. But I did your detox bath on day one that I felt like absolute crap.
That helped.
My sickness, there was multiple things I was doing. I was taking your electrolytes every day. I did the detox bath. I cut that sickness. I've never been so sick, but for such a short amount of time. I really think that made a difference because I had never done any of those things before.
Huge.
When I've been like super sick like this, like I have to have that detox bath now on hand at all times in case I get sick again or whatever.
Yes, it's a game changer.
But how often should you do it? Because I feel like you don't want to do that too often.
I feel like once a week is really realistic, but I want to talk about something because most people, when you get sick, everybody suppresses the fever. Get Tylenol, get ibuprofen. The reality is if you let your immune system do its thing and you heat your body up like you did in the detox bath, you can get rid of that virus and stop it in its replication. So unpopular opinion, but we don't give our kids Tylenol and ibuprofen. I don't let them suffer. I do homeopathy, I do herbs, I do supplements. You know, we do cooling things like lukewarm baths, but like if you have a fever, don't suppress it. So when you were sick and you did that detox bath, you probably heated your body up to get rid of that virus and stop it in its tracks, along with probably vitamin C, vitamin D, all the things that you did.
And then do you need to be drinking a ton of water after you do a detox bath?
Yes, it's so important to rehydrate, whether it's a detox bath, a hot yoga class, sauna. So many people do, even coffee enemas, they do so many detoxifying things, but they don't replenish with water or electrolytes or minerals. And so to feel good, sometimes people can feel bad detoxing, and it's not the detox itself, it's that they're so dehydrated. So if it's my dream night, I'm doing the bath and then I'll get into bed. And if I've had a really overstimulating day, one of my favorite ways to calm down, and I have learned to appreciate the nervous system, which is that rest and digest, the parasympathetic state after brain surgery, because I've never had insomnia. I've never had sleeping issues. But when I had brain surgery, I finally understood people who couldn't sleep. I get it. And so I got this mat. It's a PEMF mat, and I lay on it, and it's grounding, and it's warm, and it has infrared rays, and it is like, there are so many nights in the beginning of my brain cancer journey after surgery that I just couldn't sleep, and I toss and I turn, and I would sleep on my closet floor on this mat because it was the most healing thing. So if I've had a stressful or overwhelming day or after travel, I'll lay on my mat and then I'll crawl in bed. And every night before bed, I take 2 magnesium. It is like the biggest game changer. It helps with sleep, relaxation, mood. I just love it. Like I literally only traveled with one supplement, and that's magnesium.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That was the only one that you've brought?
Electrolytes, but magnesium's the only like pill that I bought.
What brand is the PEMF mat?
It's higher dose.
Okay, higher dose. And then what does that do for the body?
So it's super grounding. So I love getting your feet in the grass, right? So that's Earth's energy. It's called negative ions. So no one, it sounds woo, but no one can negate that feeling of when you're at the beach and you stick your toes in the sand. We know what that feels like, right? So that's negative ions. It's grounding. So this mat has that effect. Obviously, it's not the beach and all the negative ions on the beach, but it has negative ions. It's really warm. It has infrared rays. So a lot of people will talk about infrared sauna, which I love and use as well. But this mat has infrared rays, and then it has PEMF, which is pulsed electromagnetic frequencies.
What is your hot take on probiotics?
Not everybody needs them.
I thought everybody needed to be taking these.
I think gut health is everything. And when you are healthy and your gut is intact, it puts so many other things into place, but not everybody needs probiotics. And I know this because I've tested thousands of people with stool tests, and some people have great gut bacteria. And then there's also probiotics that like, you need this one, you need this one. I think it's good to change it up, but I don't think anybody needs to be on probiotics year-round every single year.
So how do you know if you're the person that needs it?
I think it's good to pulse dose probiotics, like maybe 2 to 3 months a year. If you get on antibiotics, definitely take probiotics because you just destroyed that good gut bacteria. So I think if you're on antibiotics, if you're really prone to sickness, take probiotics, for several months in a row.
What else should you be
up.
taking if you're on antibiotics or have to be?
So you can do anything to help calm the gut. So whether that's colostrum or zinc carnosine, aloe, marshmallow root, there's different things to help calm and kind of heal and seal the gut so it doesn't turn into a leaky gut.
Should we be investing in an air purifier?
I think if you have the funds, yes. Not everybody has that option. And so just opening your windows and getting fresh air, that's huge, But really
it's better to have air from the outside into the home?
Well, I just think it's a good cheap way. If you can't afford an air purifier, you can really DIY it and get a box fan and an air filter if you need to. But I'm big on air purifiers. We have one in every single room in our house.
I keep windows open at least 20 minutes every day, no matter the weather.
That's so good.
Yeah. So that's like my thing. And that's something free that everybody can do. I guess some people might think, well, the pollution outside and stuff, you're letting that into your home. And isn't it better to always keep your doors and windows closed?
Now, if you're in like an urban city, maybe not, but I also think that most people, we pollute our indoor air quality with chemicals and fragrance and things like that. So that's where that fresh air is really good. But if you live in a really highly concentrated urban place, especially if you're in like an apartment or a high rise and you can't control all the air and they're putting fragrance in the hallways, definitely get an air filter. Or if your kids have asthma or allergies, that is one of the things that I would absolutely invest in.
Why are the cleaning products one of the most important things to switch to non-toxic in a home?
Well, I think personally, because my kids are running around on the floor, playing on the floor all the time. So I don't want to have them playing in chemicals, but I also think it's on the dishes we eat. When it comes to laundry detergent, it's on the clothes that we wear, our sheets, our towels. It's just one simple swap that can change the air quality in our home. And I have seen patients have asthma disappear, allergies disappear just by changing cleaning products and doing laundry detergent without even doing a crazy diet.
What would be some realistic, healthy swaps for a kid living in a college dorm?
So that's hard because you can't control all the variables, but I would say some of the biggest things are personal care products is huge. Like you may not be able to control your dorm and everything in that environment. Get an air filter, use clean products, and then diet. You're not cooking in your kitchen, but do as much as you can to eat clean, avoid inflammatory foods. Sugar, food dyes, those are the big things that are going to stress your immune system. And I find so many kids that go to college, there are moldy dorm rooms. And so if you go to college and you're getting really, really, really sick and you've never been the sick kid, press into that. Maybe consider alternative housing options, only if you're the person that is like having hives and breakouts. That's not normal.
What should some wellness non-negotiables be for anyone, no matter what your budget is?
Eat clean. Get back to basics. Eat real food. Again, it doesn't have to be the healthy cookies or the healthy chips. Just eat real food. Eat ground beef. Eat avocado. Eat eggs. You can also find ways to buy it in bulk. That would be a really big thing that I would say. Clean up the products in your home. Again, you can make your own laundry detergent. You can use vinegar. It does not have to be these beautiful non-toxic brands. But I'm thankful for brands out there because I'm not DIYing it all the time. But yeah, just get back to those basics of eating and environment, especially the things you come into contact with or consume on a daily basis, like your coffee. Clean up your coffee. Stop going to Starbucks and getting the lattes with all the crap and all the junk and all the sugar. Figure out a cleaner way to do it at home.
What is a realistic, non-toxic morning routine for a mom?
Okay, so again, it's so different. And I'm a mom. I'm not sitting here saying that I have this 12-step routine. I really think it depends on the day. But if you can get up even just 20 minutes before your kids, like set your alarm, that can set the tone for the day. So that's what I do if I really need a moment to myself in the mornings. A lot of times our kids crawl in bed with us and they sleep with us. So sometimes I'm like ninjaing out of the bed to creep to the bathroom. I'm like, did they hear me? But I would do, personally for me, I love brushing my teeth, tongue scraping. I love my face roller. That just like, it wakes me up for the day.
The Skinny Confidential face roller.
Yes, I'm
Freaking
obsessed.
game
Straight out of
changer.
the freezer.
Yep,
Straight
yep,
out of
yep.
the freezer. You got to do the freezer. And then I like walking outside, whether it's light out or not. I put my feet in the grass. I take some deep breaths. My husband goes to get the newspaper. I'll walk out with him and just ground, just really calming myself before the day starts and the crazy with work and kids and life. And then I love lemon water in the morning. I'm a tea girly, so I'll drink tea, but I usually do electrolytes in the morning because you're dehydrated after night. So it's drinking my electrolytes, getting a little bit of fresh air, sunshine. And then if I'm lucky, I get some quiet time and I just spend time with the Lord and prepare my heart for the day and everything that I have to do. Now, that doesn't happen every morning. Let's be honest. Sometimes the kids are like, I'm hungry and I'm awake. But you can also incorporate your kids into this routine. If your kid's up, great. My kids are like, Mom, do you want your face roller? And they'll get it for me. And then we'll all go outside and then we'll all eat a healthy breakfast and we'll take our vitamins together. So it is nice to have solo time, especially my quiet time in the morning. But sometimes that doesn't happen. And you just incorporate your kids and you bring them in on whatever you're doing and invite them in.
Why should we be drinking electrolytes every day?
Most people are dehydrated at a cellular level. Even if they're drinking enough water, we don't have the proper minerals and electrolytes within our body, sodium, potassium, to get that hydration into the cells. And so that is why most people, when they drink electrolytes, they feel a difference because it has proper potassium, sodium, and magnesium.
So somebody could drink water every day and still be dehydrated, and it's because their water has no minerals in it.
That and their cells are just like not absorbing. Yes. And so most people feel a difference when they take electrolytes. And I will say most women, and I know this from testing, this isn't just opinions or feelings or my personal story. I've tested thousands of patients over the years. I do nutrient testing. Almost every single woman is deficient in magnesium. And so when you have electrolytes that have magnesium, you're going to feel a difference because you're fine tuning what your body is depleted of.
Yeah, magnesium is a game changer. And is that the number one supplement that you sell?
Yeah, for sure.
Wow. Because people just automatically notice a difference, at least with that one.
Yes, and so many are deficient. I mean, not just women. I've worked with a lot of NFL players and professional athletes, a lot of breastfeeding moms. They burn through their B vitamins and their magnesium so quickly. And so that's the trend that I saw on testing. It's usually women or people that are super athletic. So that's why people cramp up. You need magnesium.
What is the trickiest indoctrination for moms to overcome that is ingrained in them from traditional medicine?
I would have to say jabs. It's one of those things that you just do what you're told. And I think a lot of moms go to the 2-month visit, the 4-month visit, the 6-month visit, and their gut is telling them, don't do it, don't do it. But then they're fear-mongered. And then they're having to get all of these things to stay on schedule. And the reality is I always say to moms, you are your child's best advocate. You know your child best. If something doesn't feel right, press into that motherly instinct. God gave us that for a reason. Do research, read the inserts, educate yourself. If you feel like you're going against the grain, but something in you is wanting you to look further into it, do it.
So here's the thing. I'm now the juice girl at work in the office. I walk in with a bag full of vibrant, delicious drinks, and suddenly everybody wants to be my friend and know, what are you drinking today, Alex? What'd you bring us? Ever since I started drinking squeezed juice, I've become the office hero. And honestly, I can't blame them. It's that good. Squeezed juice is my absolute favorite non-GMO juice brand. It's all from a small family farm in California. There's no sugar added, no artificial flavors, never from concentrate, just pure, fresh squeezed fruit. They have everything from antioxidant-packed lemonades to pomegranate juice, even mandarin juice. It's like getting fresh squeezed juice at home without the work. The best part, you can feel great about what you're drinking and sharing. It's perfect for your kids' lunchboxes, a fun Christmas morning treat, or just to pick me up any time of day. And it's shipped cold right to your door, so it's always fresh. For 25% off, go to squeezejuice.com and use code ALEX. Trust me, once you try it, you're going to be the juice girl or guy at your office too. That's squeezejuice.com and use code ALEX for 25% off your order of the best fresh squeezed juice and lemonade. Little Bean, are you drowning in student loan debt? Do you feel like there's no way out? Are you discovering that your whole family is affected by this? If you have private student loan debt and are behind or even in default, you got to call my friends at YRefi. YRefi refinances private student loans that others won't touch and provides you with a custom loan payment based on your ability to pay. They can reduce your monthly payment and your total cost. Plus, they don't care what your credit score is. YRefi is not a debt settlement company. You'll receive a low fixed interest rate that you couldn't get anywhere else and a pathway to making all the stress and worry come to an end. Just give them a call at 888-502-2612. That's 888-502-2612 or go to YRefi.com. That's YREFY.com. If private student loan debt is wrecking your life, it doesn't have to. Take it from me. Call YRefi at 888-502-2612 or go to YRefi.com. When you were in the traditional medicine world as a nurse, what were some of the most shocking things you saw when it came to the childhood schedule?
Well, I have a perfect story for this. And this is something that I have never shared publicly, but I think this is really important. And this was a huge factor that my husband and I considered when we were taking our children's health into consideration. And I have to mind you, I did not know where I stood on the schedule at this point and being up to date and, all the routine visits. I didn't know where I stood. I just knew that I had a health journey, that had affected me. My husband was an Air Force pilot. He had been given a lot before going to Afghanistan, had all these reactions. So we knew individually that we had our own personal experience with that, but we didn't know where we stood with our kids. We want them to live a normal life. We want them to go to church. We want them to, we want them to live normal lives. And we didn't know what that looked like. As a nurse, I was in nurse practitioner school. And I did a pediatric rotation at a practice. And I will never forget the doctor saying, hey, if you ever want to own a practice someday, which I did, but I knew I wanted to do integrative medicine at this point. And so I'll never forget the pediatrician said, come in if you want to own your own practice. There's a financial side of things that you need to learn as a business person, not just the clinical side of care. So I went in that morning, I went in early, and I got to see the new rep from the new company come in. They were installing the fridge, and he was talking about when parents come in and want to space things apart, you're going to lose money. You have to give it, because people can say, I want to do a delayed schedule or, I want to just do one at a time. He basically said, don't let them do that. You're going to lose money. They're going to expire. You're going to lose revenue, and you need to keep things on date. And so when I saw that conversation, I had a check in my spirit and I'm like, what on earth? So there's a whole for-profit side that no one sees unless you really own your own practice.
And so is that why they threaten to kick you out as a patient if you do not adhere to that schedule?
Yeah, I've had a lot of friends kicked out of pediatric practices because they're not willing to do what the providers want. So then they have to either find alternatives or they feel like they're in the dark and they're scared that they can't get wellness care for their kids and they freak out when there's a sick visit. So yeah, I've had plenty of friends kicked out of practices. That conversation that I saw was just one of the most unbelievable. You just realize that there's a whole nother side of things. And then not to mention, as a provider, So it's called CPT codes. So every visit that you have, you can bill insurance. So you get to bill for certain codes to get reimbursed for certain procedures. And so say it's maybe $10. I'm just generally, hypothetically speaking, say it's $10 per individual administration. But when you're at a 2-month-old visit and a 4-month-old visit and a 6-month-old visit, you're not just getting one, you're getting combos. So you're getting 8 to 9 in one visit. So that turns out to be $100. And then you do that all throughout your well check. So it could be $1,500 a kid. Providers that are not doing that are losing a lot of money because there's a financial incentive to submit that coding to get that reimbursement.
Every single mother in America needs to hear what you just said.
That's what I feel so strongly about this. And this is not something I've talked about because honestly, a fear of losing my license. I've had a private practice but the reality is there is a side. And I just tell moms, I'm like, go with your gut. And it's not just the jab itself. It's also what else is in it. What are the inactive ingredients? There's aluminum, there's formaldehyde, there's mercury, there's aborted fetal cells in some of these, jabs. And so that's what people don't realize. And they're neurotoxic. And I think the big question to ask is, well, are kids healthier than they were? And yeah, we're not seeing some of these rates of some of these diseases that we're preventing. But if you actually look at the timeline, herd immunity kicked into place. So by the time the issue was on the decline
is when we offered that.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
By the time it's manufactured and out, it's either on the decline or it's extinct. So everyone wants to give glory to these things that have eradicated it. But the reality is if you look at the timeline of when they came out and when things were on the decline. So I just say to moms, like, you are your child's best advocate. You know your child best. Kids are not healthier than they were years ago. We're seeing allergies, asthma, skin issues, ear infections. Everything is skyrocketing. And something that really made me question things as a nurse is when I would be in my baby rotation, my OB rotation, and I would see these newborns get yanked from their mothers, and then they'd get a jab of hepatitis B. And the only way that you can track that is either through dirty needles, like drug users, or through intercourse. And in my mind, just common sense, why are we giving this to a newborn and their liver and filtering this on day 1 of their life? And then they're swept away from their mom. They're getting antibiotics in their eyes, the ointment, which is so normal. It's routine unless you advocate for yourself and you say you don't want that. But the reason they're getting that is because if the mom has STDs. Well, guess what? You have to, in your pregnancy, by state law, you have to test for STDs. So most people do not have STDs. And so why are we giving this to every child, even if we know that their mother does not have STDs? It's just a part of the system. And guess what? There's a code that they can submit for insurance to be reimbursed for those procedures. So that really started to make me wonder, why are we doing this to literally a 10-minute-old baby?
I recently became a smoothie girl in the morning, and I never was before. I started using your organic vanilla grass-fed bone broth protein powder in the smoothie. What should somebody be looking for when it comes to protein powders?
So everyone's different. And this is where I say, whatever it is, whatever it's a diet, whatever it's products like my product, how do you respond? How do you feel after it? Because so many people will do things in the name of, I know it's good for me. If it causes bloating, if you don't feel good, if it breaks you out, don't do it. A lot of things when it comes to protein powders, what I'm getting at is a lot of them are vegan, and that can really upset people's stomachs. So I personally want
because they're pea protein.
Yes. And I don't think pea is bad. I think it depends on sourcing and quality. And again, how do you tolerate it as an individual? But the reason we formulated ours is because I couldn't find one on the market that I could just drink alone with milk. It was like too gritty, too chalky. It had vegan proteins that I didn't like. It had all these extra ingredients. And so I just wanted one that came from, I love bone broth. It's full of collagen. So our bone broth has so much collagen in it. So I wanted a good source of collagen, clean protein from 100% grass-fed, beef bone broth. It doesn't taste like, it doesn't taste like bone broth, but I wanted the benefits. But I also wanted some healthy fat in there. So there's organic coconut milk powder to make it creamy.
Yes.
And then it also does not have artificial sweeteners, and it has stevia, monk fruit, and then unrefined sea salt.
Now, what's the controversy around stevia? Because everybody's going to freak out about that.
Let's talk about stevia. So it's one of the things, and I also want to say before I even talk about stevia, if someone's going to get on their high horse about one thing, they're missing the point of health, right? So when it comes to stevia, there's a lot of hype about hormones and gut and disruption. And the reality is it's how is the stevia processed? It's an herb. It's a plant, right? They've been using it in South America for a long time. And anyway, with the herb, what they do is they get the herbs as far as our clean extraction process, because quality matters. They get the herbs. Think of it as like a leaf, a tea leaf. They're going to steep it in water. They're going to filter it. It's just like vanilla bean, vanilla extract. You get stevia extract from the stevia leaf. So ours is super natural, no chemicals, things like that. I personally love it because it regulates blood sugar. It's not going to spike your blood sugar. It's not an artificial sweetener that's causing cancer. But stevia does get a lot of bad rap because a lot of people can have stomach issues, but when the stevia is mixed with sugar alcohols. So it causes bloating and stomach discomfort. But there are some studies that show that it has positive effects on even things like Lyme, as well as the gut microbiome. It's blood sugar friendly. But there's a lot of hype about hormones, and honestly, the research is still out. But the reality is if you're having low doses, some of these things that people are claiming don't even matter.
Yeah, because some people are scared that it is like some kind of birth control.
There is a lot of hype, and a lot of people have talked about that. And, as a brand, we always want to meet consumer demands. And so there's a lot of people that have questions, whether they're educated, looking at research, or fear-mongered. So our 2 bone broth proteins we just released, there's an unflavored one, and then a strawberries and cream and a seasonal pumpkin spice. We literally just did no stevia. We did monk fruit. Our manufacturer could do it. I still love vanilla and chocolate. I drink it. I give it to my kids. It has stevia in it. Not the end of the world. I'm not chasing down that rabbit trail. But I do think people get so hyper-focused on this heavy metal and this stevia and this. And it's like you're missing the point of health. And if you are going to drive yourself so crazy that everything's toxic, your thought life and your stress levels are more toxic than consuming a dinner out with friends.
What is the truth about almost all conventional coffee brands?
They're full of mold, they're full of pesticides, and a lot of them have heavy metals. So if you look at the environments where coffee is grown and originates from, it's super wet, damp climate. So mold is the biggest thing, specifically mycotoxins. And if you're drinking that on a daily basis, you're infiltrating your body with mycotoxins. So that's really big, but also heavy metals. Some coffees have flavorings and a lot of extracts. Like people are like, oh, I love the pecan something. But the reality is it's just artificial flavorings, which is code word for chemicals. So getting clean, organic coffee beans tested for pesticides, heavy metals, and mold is really important.
And you guys have that. You also have creamer.
Yeah. And our coffee is so good and so clean, it can be drank, but it can also be used for a coffee enema. So.
Love. Okay.
It's dual purpose, baby.
We love that. Get the bang for your buck. What is the most dangerous coffee creamer you think at the store?
I mean, Coffee Mate, for sure.
I was going to say Coffee Mate.
I hate calling out brands. I really do.
Oh, I don't. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, Coffee Mate, it's illegal. There are certain products that are illegal in other countries. And if you just look what's in it and people are like, oh, I love the low calorie.
There is not one real food ingredient in Coffee Mate.
Yes,
it
terrible.
Is literally just industrial oil.
Fake sugar, fake chemicals,
fake sugar,
flavoring.
and that's like it. That's all it is. It's literally, that's all it is. There's nothing real in there. There's not even real milk, nothing. It's that is the most disgusting thing in the grocery store, I think.
And so many women are like, oh, but it's low sugar, it's low fat. And it's like, yeah, but it's full of chemicals that are going to lead to weight gain and wreak havoc on your hormones. And it's terrible for you.
No, and you have an amazing coffee creamer. I'm not a coffee drinker myself personally, but everyone on my team is. They're all obsessed with your coffee.
Oh, I love that.
So because you were so generous, you sent a whole bag and we were brewing it at the office and everybody was like freaking out. And then one of my bosses actually was like, this is the best I've ever had. And then she bought a whole bunch for her entire family.
I love that.
Yeah, I mean, the hype is real. And then my audience, those that have tried the coffee, they've all been like, okay, wait, this is amazing. So the hype is real about the coffee.
Pro tip, add bone broth to your coffee. It's like a creamy, it's yummy.
Can you list the labs that we should all be doing once a year?
Yeah, so when you go to your traditional doctor, they're only going to offer a couple labs. So I always would do longer, extensive lab panels on my patients. So CBC, that's going to cover your blood markers, your kidney, your liver. CMP is really important. Vitamin D to make sure your levels are optimal. Thyroid, women need thyroid panels, especially not just a TSH. We need a full thyroid panel. So TSH, free T4, free T3. I love hemoglobin A1C to see how you're balancing your blood sugar. If you want to get really picky, to screen for autoimmune disease, especially women that have a lot of different symptoms that no doctor can figure out, run an ANA with a reflex to titer. And those are some good starting spots.
How can we prevent the non-toxic world from becoming toxic?
God, I love this question. So I think we can all agree in the non-toxic world, it is becoming toxic because there's so much fear-mongering, there's so much shaming, and it makes it unattainable for people. Like, why would I want to be a part of that? So just do the best that you can. If you can't overhaul your whole house and all your products overnight, make one step at a time, right? And where I am today, it took me years to get to where I am. I don't even think about it. I know what shampoo I buy. I know what toothpaste, and it is just part of my life now. But don't try to do it overnight. Don't listen to every single thing that every single influencer says online. There's so much fear-mongering, so much shame. I get so many DMs. What do you think about this? I don't subscribe to that because I make my own decisions and I don't live my life in fear. And don't try to compare yourself. If someone's whole account is built over fear-mongering and shaming, it's probably good for your mental health to unfollow that account because that information and the constant fear and the constant feeling like, oh my gosh, everything I buy and all my better options in my house and everything, if that is making you feel like you cannot achieve a non-toxic life, get rid of that, unsubscribe to that. and stop trying to compare yourself to everybody. Do the best you can, get back to basics, and don't live your life in fear.
Yeah. And I like too, you've posted before, just because raw milk works for one influencer in the health and wellness space doesn't mean it's going to be best for you. Maybe you're somebody that would do better avoiding dairy altogether.
Yes.
So this I have to do what this health and wellness influencer does just is not always the case. And there are going to be different people that you hear from and see doing things that some of this might work for you, some of it may not. So it's just pick and choosing what is going to be best for your family. Just because Taylor Dukes does this routine doesn't mean you have to do everything Taylor Dukes is doing, because Taylor's life on a day-to-day basis is different than yours. I mean, there's all these different variables in your life that are going to determine what's going to be better for you than somebody else.
That's so good.
If someone were to try one thing from TaylorDukesWellness.com, what should it be?
I would say the bone broth protein.
I would agree.
When you're doing it, you notice a difference. It balances your blood sugar. Actually, free hot tip. Women, eat protein. It does not make you bulky. It changes your life. It balances your blood sugar. So if you can get that in, even if you're not a breakfast person, throw some in your coffee. It is so good. And yeah, getting enough protein in can literally change your day, your cravings, your energy. So I think that's an easy one to incorporate.
I've been a diehard raw milk iced chai tea latte in the morning person forever.
Love.
But the smoothie thing, I'm being radicalized because of this protein powder. I do notice way more benefits getting that extra protein in the morning than the chai is a treat and I love it. But having that smoothie is game changing. And I'm dumping your protein powder, plus I'm dumping in my collagen powder. I'm putting so many things in this and getting all these benefits. Oh my gosh.
You could even make a chai though with bone broth protein.
Oh yeah.
So just add protein to your chai.
Yep. And what other things can you put protein powder in?
Coffee, we put it in muffins. We add it to just muffins that we would bake to add protein. Coffee, again, chai. I've made iced chais in the afternoon. You inspired me actually one day. I was like, I'm going to do an iced chai.
Obsessed.
And so I had a little peak chai. I had some raw milk, and then I did some protein because it was a little snack.
When you put protein powder in a baked good, are you subbing it for flour in the exact amount of flour it calls for?
Let's be honest. I'm not DIYing all my baked goods. I'm usually buying cleaner boxed options and I'll just add it in there for protein. But you could.
What would you like to see this new administration tackle when it comes to health?
I would say incentivizing health promotion and disease prevention. We are such a reactive medical system. When someone has a disease, we react to it. What med do you need to do? How can we get ahead of it? Let's get ahead of the curve and start intervening before it's an issue and costing our medical system thousands of dollars. I would love to see more integrative care. I would love to see that more accessible to people, more affordable. I would also love to see medical school systems change and nurse practitioner programs. No one's required to take nutrition. I didn't learn any of the things that I learned or how I practice in my personal private practice in nursing school. You don't learn that. You maybe take one nutrition course, but I think that would be so important is you have people fault doctors and providers, and I get it. I don't knock them, because I'm trained through the same medical system. But we have to do better when it comes to prevention and health promotion and disease prevention. And that starts with curriculums in schools. And so that's why these doctors practice the way they do, because they're indoctrinated in a system, and that is so outdated. I think it would be incredible if we could ban food dyes. They're banned in other countries. As a mom of young kids, my kids don't have food dyes. And I feel like the Grinch when my kid sits in the baseball dugout and all their kids are drinking Gatorade. And my kid's cool with it. He's like, we're the Dukes family. We do things differently. And he has electrolytes. But let's get rid of them altogether. We don't need them. The way that they mess with our bodies, our brains, they're excitotoxic, they're neurotoxic. We do not need them.
Hey, you know what is such a good hack for giving your kid healthy Gatorade is Taylor Dukes electrolytes, put it in there, shake it up, and then blue spirulina.
Love that.
And so they're going to get benefits from that, but it looks as blue as Gatorade.
Hot tip from the queen herself.
I know. So that is a game changer. Your kid will never know. And you know what you can do? You could buy a bottle of Gatorade if you really wanted to. I mean, it'd be wasteful, but you could dump that out, put it in the Gatorade bottle. So then they feel like they fit in, and you could just keep reusing that bottle. It'd be like, don't throw that away. Give it to mommy. And then you just keep it and rinse it.
I need to recycle it. Yeah. But I also have to say one thing I really appreciate with our kids is we educate them. It's not this, you can't have that. You don't do this. It's very much like my kid will tell you, a parent will offer him Gatorade and he'll say, no, thank you. I don't do food dyes. And he knows. And so when parents empower their kids and don't make it a power struggle, it's so much better, and you're setting them up for that foundation. And I just think it's so beautiful to see kids make choices for themselves because they understand. It's not this, no, you can't have it, you can't have this. We always have healthier swaps. We have alternatives. So for Halloween, guess what? We have the non-food dye treats, and we're not having them every day, but my kids still live a normal life.
If you could provide one remedy to heal a sick culture, physically, mentally, or spiritually, what would it be?
Get back to basics. Don't overcomplicate your health. Get back to the things that God gave us. Get your feet in the grass, get sunshine, get fresh air. eat real food. You know, we overcomplicate it, but I just would say get back to basics.
Remind everyone what your store is called
Taylor Dukes Wellness.
and what all can they find on there.
So you can find everything from supplements, magnesium, vitamin D, vitamin C. We had talked about the detox baths. I love our mineral salt. I put it on everything. I cook with it.
Oh, I cook with your mineral salt. That's
it is
my
so
salt.
clean. And then, of course, we have all of our nutritional products. So I'm a mom. I want my kids to live normal lives. I want them to have lemonade, hot chocolate. I'm not going to go buy Swiss Miss and Country Time. So I formulated my own.
Yeah.
We have a clean lemonade powder. You just add to water. We have a hot chocolate. You add your milk of choice. Protein powder, electrolytes, the collection's growing. So that's my favorite part is the nutritional products.
And you can use code Alex Clark to get a discount at taylordukeswellness.com, which will put all of that, the links and the codes and everything in the show notes. What is your Instagram?
Taylor Dukes Wellness.
Taylor, I'm so glad that we became friends.
Oh, I loved it.
I just cherish you in my life so much. This girl is so supportive and just like the best cheerleader of a friend. So I've just loved getting to know you in these last few months. And we had you speak at YWLS, our women's conference over the summer. And it's just been phenomenal getting to know you.
Well, I just love you and I'm proud of all you're doing in the health world. And I'm like, most people are not like Alex Clark, where they literally start their health journey and they're burning and turning and they know everything overnight. I'm like, Alex, haven't you been in this world for a long time? And she's like, no, I really haven't. So I'm just proud of you for drinking from a fire hose and blessing people with the information and education that you do.
Thanks, Taylor. Thank you for coming on Culture Apothecary. I've gotten to know Taylor personally outside of the podcast, and she is just the real deal. She is the sweetest, most authentic human who is really just doing everything she can to teach people how to live a healthier life. She's been an incredible sponsor of Culture Apothecary, just absolutely believes in the show, in the mission. We share all the same values, and I adore her. So I hope you'll check her out. Don't forget, you can try Taylor Dukes Wellness at taylordukeswellness.com with code Alex Clark for a discount. Culture Apothecary posts new episodes with different experts in health and wellness on Mondays and Thursdays, 6 p.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Eastern. And you can get that anywhere you get your podcasts or the Real Alex Clark YouTube channel. I'm Alex Clark, and this is Culture Apothecary.